Oh no. Well, hello. Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome. You all may be getting a surprise tonight. We are working on our next episode of Wrapped in Wellness Convos. And this is The Joy is Just Over Yonder podcast with your host, Lakisha McGaney-Osei. So, if you are seeing this live, welcome, welcome. It will be officially broadcast on February 8th as well. We are still over the hill, wrapped in wellness, full of joy for what has taken place over the past week and the downloads that we are continuing to receive. So I cannot let the weeks go by any longer without bringing one of our special guests that was at Wrapped in Wellness and who we have been anxiously awaiting to bring on to The Joy is Just Over Yonder podcast. So you will meet her in just a moment. But I just want to let you all know, give you a few updates real quick about what is happening. If you saw our post yesterday, we are allowing you to go ahead and reserve your seat for Wrapped in Wellness 4.0. It is not too early to guarantee that this time you will be at the well. So you can reserve with a non-refundable small deposit of only $50 for your space for the weekend. And this is a weekend experience that will kick off on Friday and go through Sunday next year. The dates are February 16th through the 18th. 2024 is a long holiday weekend, so you get that Monday to recover. But we want you to come retreat with us, make a staycation out of it, bring your significant other because we are getting well together and we are going to have the men and women in the house at the well. So again, if you want to get your advance ticket, you can save that space for $50. And when you do reserve your seat early, that allows you to get a total of $100 off your registration for next year. So take advantage of that. And then we have a couple of events coming up. We have our virtual summit that will be another version of Wrapped in Wellness 3.0, the overflow, but we're doing a virtual version because you have asked, and some of our virtual speakers who have participated in the past want to continue to pour into the well. So we are giving them an opportunity to do that. And that will be for a 1-day series in March. And then, of course, continue to look out for upcoming updates. I will, at the end of the broadcast, announce another great project that you will some of you will definitely want to take part in as we show how we have flourished in our flow. So there is a anthology opportunity that you can take advantage of that's going to be coming up this year. But without further ado, because I want to give her all the time to share with us this evening, I want to bring on our special guest tonight, Miss Nicole Hawkins.
Hi,
Hello there. Welcome, welcome.
how are you today?
I am doing excellent, excellent. Look at this beautiful queen, y'all. She's queen vibes all through the broadcast. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. We are so excited to have you. As you know, we've been waiting to get you on, and then Wrapped in Wellness came up, and you came and showed out and was a very special guest and a very important part of that
Thank
weekend.
you.
Literally, when I said she set the atmosphere, she helped set the intention for the weekend by starting us off early that Saturday morning with a sound bath that has been everyone has been raving about. It allowed them to really just come into themselves, center themselves, and prepare their minds and body for what then occurred throughout the weekend. So I thank you again personally for being
No,
amazing.
absolutely. My thanks goes to you for allowing me, to enter into your space and allow me to actually be that vessel for that particular
Mhm.
event. So I appreciate you for even thinking about me. So
Absolutely. And so Nicole and I actually interestingly met back in October. And we were both at we had a mutual friend who invited us both to come out and serve.
yeah,
And so she was doing sound bowls. I was helping with some breathing exercise and giving some examples of hand reflexology. And so we connected right away, fell in love with this cutie right away. She has a beautiful spirit and knew we would
aw,
be
thank
doing
you.
some things together. And so I'm excited that they have continued, and we have many more things that we will do together in the future. So, what brings us here tonight? Now, you know she does the sound bowls, but she is also a wonderful, magnificent. You guys, I got to get my words together tonight. She
It's
is a
okay.
magnificent wife who is a caregiver, and we are really going to talk about this important, very important. This is part of taking care of those wells. When you are a caregiver, who takes care of the caregiver? And she has had experience with this. She's going to share her story with us. And we're just going to talk about that because part of, being well, healing well, it requires assistance from our loved ones, our friends, and we don't always have that. So when there's a spouse that you are taking care of, is someone you're with 24/7 when it comes to your household. It's not like you're going and leaving, but that round the clock care that may be needed, and some of the strains and that it may put on your relationship. So we want to talk about that here at Wrapped in Wellness on the Joy is Just Over podcast. We talk about all of the things that affect us in our wells, whether it's eating well, moving well, healing well, our mental well. And so this definitely fits in the love well, how we love through caring. So as we get started tonight, I'm going to give Nicole an opportunity to share a little bit more about who she is. And then we're going to talk about it. Who takes care of the caregiver? Nicole?
Um, for me, I think for us, all of us, we are so much that we don't even give ourselves the, the grace to actually understand who we truly are. For me, I just like to say that I am a person who loves to service in um, just allowing people to find out more about different, I don't know, topics like caregiving, and then seeing the shift in the perspective around these different adversities that we go through. So that's one thing that I do like to do. I also like to write. I I have challenged myself this year to kind of write 8 to 12 different books and trying to do something fast, quick. I know I don't know. I'm not going to say I can't do it because I've done many of things before, but I'm an author. I am also a person who loves to do sound healing. I love to do, I create like card decks. Like some of them may be healing card decks, some of them may be shadow work card decks. I'm trying to figure out all the things that I've done. I mean, it's just a host of different things that I really have accomplished. But the best thing for me, the best thing that I've probably accomplished in life is finding myself throughout all of these different things. Um, these these books, these different things that I do don't really mean anything if I didn't know who I was myself.
Mm,
So, and it took a long time to get to that point because when I grew up, I was a very quiet child. I really didn't. I mean, I was an introvert extrovert. You know, those ones that
mhm.
if I know you, I'm gonna be a crazy,
Right.
funny extrovert. But if I don't know you, I'm a little standoffish. I kind of observe. I kind of stay to myself type thing. But I've been like that all my life, and I think in 2018 was when I really truly started to dive deep into who I was. Um, for me, my life has always been about other people. Like I found my spark in other people,
Mhm.
but then I had to actually realize like, okay, what is it in me? So
Right.
I took that time to like, try to figure that part about that part of me that I was looking to everybody else to find. Like we always think that our happiness is in other people. Well, the happiness is really within
Mhm.
you. Those people are just a mirroring image of what you are giving them. So 2018 was probably when I started to really meditate and I started to really dive into meditation. I don't know, it was just out of curiosity. And when I started, it was like one of the best things that I had ever
Mm.
done for myself in my
Right.
life. Like I said, it's always been about other people, and this was actually about me. And I think I just, I don't know what happened. I just found a lot of different things about myself, and it just made me so happy. I think that was probably, to be honest, like my daughters, having my kids, getting married, and those things are great. But to be honest, me finding myself was probably one of the greatest things I
Mm.
ever tapped into. Um, so I was doing that for a while, and like I said, it was the happiest I had ever. I started to really take that time to myself and have fun, just doing anything, like anything I do, I can find some type of fun and some type of laughter in it. It just I was just on a high. Like my vibes was high, my frequency was high, everything was just high. And one thing that happened to me was about in the end of January, like December, on my husband's birthday, he broke his leg. So he got it repaired and everything. And maybe a couple months later, he started to realize that his walking was kind of off. And I'm like, okay. So around the end of February, I think, something like that, January, February, is when, he decided, okay, I have to go to the hospital because something's not right. So we
Right.
go to the hospital. He spends about 9 days in the observation room because they didn't know. They took every blood test that there was. I mean, did every like a spinal tap, all kinds of different things, and they could not find it. I mean, I have one picture that I have like he had like 20 virals that they were going to draw blood just
Wow.
to see. I mean, they tested him for Lyme disease, HIV. I mean, they tested him for everything, and everything was fine. But when they went into the spinal fluid, is where they found that out that he had cancer. He had stage 4 CNS lymphoma, which lymphoma is really one of the most curable uh, cancers. But anytime you hear cancer, it's just
Right.
your mind automatically goes left.
Mhm.
And it was just one of those things where I was like, wait a minute. And I will never forget the day because it was March 20th, 2020, and it was 10:18 in the morning,
Mm.
and we go to the doctor, and because my husband really tried, like it was like three doctors that he was seeing. It was a neurologist, and the neurologist was like, well, you need to call this person, this person. He was trying not to call the oncologist at all,
Mhm.
but the oncologist ended up calling him and was like, I think we need to see you. And he was like, oh shit, like
Mhm.
can I say that?
That's Hey, we being real on here.
But and we go there. Our first initial his consultation was March 20th, and that's when he heard those three words: "You have cancer." And At that moment, I think he was trying to process it, and he was about to kind of like break down.
Mm,
And I don't know what came over me. I was just like, no, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to walk through it, and just figure out a way and just take it all in, and so it just kind of went from there, and that's where my caregiving journey kind of started. So that's
mhm.
a lot of I know a lot about me, but that's where it
Yeah,
kind of
and I
started.
wanna think about the time period. So you March 20th, 2020, so everyone knows what was in the process of happening,
Yes,
like, literally, because I remember, because March 13th, we were like, "We going back to school? We're not going back to school." That's like, that's
yes,
it.
yes,
So, about 7 days earlier, pretty much every school system had experienced their last day, and we were already entering what we thought was only gonna be a week or 2 shut down. So it was the beginning of the
yes,
pandemic, when you all are getting this news that your life is about to shift
yep,
drastically. So not only were you about to shift drastically personally and within your home, but the whole world
yes,
was
absolutely,
shifting. And
absolutely.
so you find out that news and then you go into isolation
Uh-huh. And
basically. So tell
it
us a
was
little bit about that.
it was weird because um, the first dose of chemo that he had to have five doses of chemo for the first round. This was just for the CNS part, the central nervous system lymphoma. So the doctor decided to give him five treatments, and the
Mhm.
treatments that he was taking, he actually had to stay in the hospital because they put it through his IV, and he had to actually urinate it out. And the hard part for me was I couldn't see him because of COVID. Like I couldn't stay
Right.
there with him. We thank God we had FaceTime, so that was a big plus at that time. But just being here by myself, I really had to dig deep, and I think that's where I started to dig deeper. Like I always say that I
Mhm.
know this sounds funny, but I feel I will never forget I had a meditation, and my meditations really started to become really hot and heavy, like where I would get a lot of different messages and different things like that, where I was really connected. And one of those things was that my husband had sacrificed some of his health to level our family up. And at the time, I'm like, who the heck wants to do something like that? But I understood the spiritual meaning of it.
Right.
That we all go through these different adversities, and actually, if you can see them for what they are, if you can take out the emotions, if you can take out the hurt, the pain, you can actually learn the lesson in them. And that's where I started to kind of dive a little deeper and try to figure out, like, okay, what's the lesson in this? What are we supposed to learn from this, and different things like that. But back to him going through that part, it was just hard for me to not be there and be
Mhm.
that shoulder where he had to sit in here for the first time he had his first treatment. It was 4 days.
Mhm.
So then he went back like 2 weeks later. The next it was like 6 days, and then it just kept going because also what was happening to him, the actual cancer within his spinal cord, so it was affecting his nerves from his waist down. So,
Mhm.
like incontinence was happening where he couldn't really urinate properly. He had to start actually catheterizing every 4 to 6 hours. That really kind of really bothered him because it's men, and
Right.
that part is really hard. But he was once he got used to it, it's like a breeze now. But it was just a lot of things that was happening to him in the course of him being there, and I couldn't do anything. And I think the other thing was with him having those urinary issues, it was hard for him to get out the the um the chemo.
Mhm.
So like every time he would go back, he would stay in for more days and more days and more days. And I'm like, so I think the last time he was there, he had to stay for 11 days. It took him 11 days to actually make sure that the trace of that chemo was out of his system.
Gotcha.
And that was like a really it was really hard because I think if you don't get it out, it can start to affect your kidneys,
Mm,
and that's what it started to do. It started to affect his kidneys. And the doctor was like, well, we're going to go ahead and do the fifth option, the fifth treatment. And the other doctor was like, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, you could rupture his kidneys at this point.
mm,
So, and then when he was in there, they gave him another medication, but this medication, what was happening is he had his lines would always blow, like his veins would blow. So they decided to do this thing called a PIC line, which kind of goes straight, like it's usually on your arm right here, and I think it's
right.
like one of your main arteries. But the PIC line, for some reason, every time he did it, he would get like a like a what is the word I'm looking for? A bad shock or a bad what is it like when you get I can't even think of the word right now. When you get not allergic to it, but yeah, something like that.
Oh,
He
okay, he
was
was having an
basically
allergic reaction.
yeah, there you go. Huh, couldn't get it out, but he was having an allergic reaction, and he couldn't breathe. I was talking to him on the phone. He couldn't breathe. He was like, something's not right, and come to find out, he was about to go into what is it,
And I was
anaphylactic?
like, phylaxis
Yeah.
shock. Look,
So
I be in the
they,
health room. I had to stick a kid with an EpiPen last week, so
yes. So that's what they were. I couldn't see him. They got on the phone and was like, we'll have him call you back. So they hung up the phone. So now I'm worried. I can't
right.
go
You
there. I
can't
can't
go
do there.
there.
I mean, it's just all of these different things that he's going through and I'm going through, and it's just like it was just so much. They finally got him together. I kept calling nurse. I know they was like, if this lady call here one more day on time, like, but I couldn't help it. I mean, it was just like I
Right.
wanted to know what was happening. But after a while, he called me back and he was like, they made him like get on all fours so that he could get his breathing back together, and
Right.
they were shooting. He was like, all he remembers like his arm was hurting. They kept shooting him with, I guess
The
maybe the EpiPen
epinephrine.
or something like
Mhm.
that. They kept shooting him with that, and they was like, you had 3 more minutes and you would have been in ICU. So
Wow.
thank goodness that didn't happen, but it was definitely hard with me not being there physically to guide him and to help him and to push him and to talk to him and be that listening ear at that time.
Mhm.
Because I
And
know,
even to be the advocate, because we know that
yeah,
there's times where you need somebody physically there.
yeah, yeah,
That's one thing about this whole pandemic thing is people were without their advocates.
yeah,
People
absolutely.
could physically go in and say, "Oh, I don't think you taking care of my loved one the way I think you should be," or "I have a question about what you're about to do before you do
Yeah,
it." So
yeah,
it's like, it was kind of a free for all for a
yeah,
minute, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. It was a hard time. It was a hard time, and I know people go through way worse, but at that moment in time, that was our worst.
Right.
And it was just really hard. So I did all kinds of things to kind of keep myself at a level head. Like I was an avid softball player, so I went and bought like 3 balls and a t-ball and a bat, and I would go in my backyard and just hit the ball.
Mm,
That was something that I did. I took many, many videos of if I was happy, if I had to cry, if I
right.
just wanted to laugh. I mean, I did all kinds of videos like that where I just wanted to get out those emotions
Mm,
because I am a true believer that when you suppress your emotions, they come out in your physical. So I really
mhm,
wanted to kind of get those emotions out of my body and out of my system. It was good to kind of be able to talk to him through FaceTime, like I said, but um, that was the hardest part I think about the whole thing. Just me being without him because it's been over 20 years that we've literally not been able to. At that time, we didn't sleep together, of course, because he was in the
mhm,
hospital. So almost 30 days of me. It was an off and on thing, but just without us being together, that was definitely a hard moment. But he's such a trooper. He don't
mhm.
complain. And I know he has his mental things that he might think about, but he's just the one that always tries to comfort and listen to other people and make other people laugh. Um, but he still had that lightheartedness about him. It was just like, you know what?
Right.
If something's happened, I'm just gonna go with the flow. He was a go with the flow type person. Like he didn't. I don't think I've heard him complain about the fact that he said he would. This is. I thought this was kind of not weird, but he said he would he would have rather go through if he had to pick between the broken leg or
Mhm.
the cancer. He said the cancer was easier than the broken leg, which I
Hmm.
thought was kind of. I was like, okay, that's a different perspective because
Right.
really, even though he said, even though it made him tired. He wasn't sure of the outcome, but the pain of the broken leg was more,
Or
because it was more physical. Like, and then, going through chemo. I don't know what that feels like, but for him to actually go through it and let me know that, it's not, it's hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely one that's not as it's just basically the inner workings of you. Like for him, it was more inner. I don't know about anybody else's cancer, but
right.
for him, it was more, them giving him the chemo, his stomach might hurt or something like that. Like I've woken up one time in the bed and he was balled up in the floor. So, 3 o'clock in the morning. But he's just such a trooper. Like he really has shown me a different side of him while he was going through this. That was really unbelievable because, like I said, he really didn't complain. So he kind of really helped me understand the journey a little bit more. Like I said, it may have been his own weight, his own mind that he would think negative thoughts, I'm sure. But if you saw him before he lost all his hair, you wouldn't have known that anything was really going on with him because he wasn't angry. Some people, things like that can make them angry or make them,
Right.
but he wasn't angry. He still had a smile on his face. He still like pushed through things. Like going up and down the steps was hard for him, but he still would go up and down the steps on a regular basis and try to, make sure that he was keeping himself, I guess, up and vibrant, and but his
Mm.
light never really dimmed, which I think is a great part of when you're going through something like that to make sure your light is always, you know, lit
Right.
and bright.
Yeah. Because
But
definitely
it's
how
just
your attitude or how you
yeah,
are handling it, and
yeah,
it plays a big part,
yeah,
and we definitely know there's hard days and bad days, but
yeah,
your attitude towards it can definitely be a big part of that. So as you go through, those first initial months and so forth under the pandemic, and as we come out, as being the primary caregiver, you talked about some of the tools and things that you started using for
mhm,
yourself to keep your own
yeah.
mental state, in check. I used to play softball too. So yeah, that so you get that. And when worked at Gaylord, we had a golf league and I had never played golf, but when I discover how much
Mhm,
stress you can release swinging them golf
yeah,
balls, you ain't even
yeah.
got to go to the course. Um, just go to the what I forgot what they call the place where you just go just to hit the
Uh,
balls and not the course, but
it's called.
you can
I
just
forgot what
go
it's called.
there, and I used to take a bucket, buy a bucket, and just swing, swing, swing. That's something I need to get back to because it's a
Yeah,
great stress reliever. So
it is.
finding things that help center you and help you relieve stress, while you're in the midst of the caretaking. Now, when you think about, because we're talking about, this is part of the love well, who's taking care of the caregiver when
Mhm.
you how did when it became kind of strainful for you, what did you do, how did you guys talk it out and communicate, so that you can make sure your relationship survived
Mhm.
this.
For me and him, for being together for 25 years, we kind of know each other a
Mm,
lot. And if I am quiet, and he can always for some reason he could always tell when something's wrong with me. I can tell when things bother him too, but he will probably never admit it. But um, he he always we always ask each other, "How are you doing today?
Mm,
Is there anything that we need to talk about?" We always stayed in constant communication with each other, and the best thing about him was that even if it was about him, he allowed me to release. He allowed me to uh, talk, and he knows that it's not uh, like a personal thing. It was just more of like we may talk about. I'm trying to figure out one thing that we may have had a Oh, I had another. I had another great meditation where my meditations for some reason show me myself
mm,
and how I can be a better person. And one of the things that it showed me was that I had resentment towards my husband. And I'm like, how can you have resentment towards somebody that's going through something like this? And, I immediately started crying. But
mm,
something just said, center yourself, go back into your meditation. Like, my guides to me, I'm definitely a person that I believe in guides. I believe you got a spirit guide and you got a whole galactic team behind you that's pushing you, that's elevating you, that's helping you. And for me, my guides were basically saying, look, this is not about crying. This is about trying to figure out what you can do to alleviate these different emotions, these negative emotions that you
mm,
may have. And when I kind of centered myself back into it, it was basically saying that I had resentment because me and my husband we already have a great relationship, but I mean he's truly my best friend. Like,
mm,
and that that doesn't happen too often. He respects me, I respect him, I respect him. I've always told him he's like one of those people that I always tell him he's been married to at least 10 different women because I have evolved so many times and, and he's allowed me to evolve into who I am today. And there's never been a moment like some people don't like to see their significant others
mm,
challenge themselves and grow because they feel like it's going to affect them in some type of way. But he's never been that type of person. Like days now, I'll be like later. He was like, "Did you meditate today?" And he's
mm.
like, because I haven't seen you go in your closet in a couple of days. Like, you need to get up and go in there. So he's one of those, like,
Right.
take care of yourself. And I love that about him. So we just had conversations like that. Like, I really don't think there's nothing, I don't tell him everything, but I'm sure there's nothing I can't tell him. There are things that I don't want to tell him, but there are things that I know that I can if it's about him, he does not mind to let me release
Right.
um, and just kind of get that stuff off of me because he knows now who he talks to. Probably his cousin. Him and his cousin are really, really close. They're like brothers. So, but he just allowed me to really. We just really had those conversations. I think, in our relationship, our biggest thing is communication,
Mm,
respect, laughter because if you're not laughing, if you're not having fun, like I get it, like the pandemic, it made everybody stay inside, and that was something that I had a lot as well around the fact that he was home because he couldn't work at the time because he was basically a assistant service manager at a car dealer. So, you know, he was walking all the time.
mhm.
But with him not being able to really walk properly, or it was affecting his nerves and like getting spasms and things, it just wasn't feasible for him to work at that time.
Right.
So good thing for Affleck because
Mm.
whew, like they really like helped. I
Shout
mean,
out for Aflac.
yes, oh my
This is not
gosh,
a paid partnership, but shout out.
it was really good to that he had that because
Right,
it was actually that helped us out financially. It didn't like take over his full paycheck, but it did help. And
right.
then the pandemic, everything was going on in the pandemic where people were just like, okay,
Uh-oh. It looks like we have temporarily lost Miss Nicole. Let's see if we can bring her back in here shortly. But wow, we are doing that, we're going to go ahead and just have a quick commercial break. That's a perfectly way in just to give you guys, you hearing us talk about wrapped in wellness over the couple shows, and let's just hear what one of our speakers had to say about that.
Hey everyone, Shaniqua Johnson here, aka Shaniqua Inspires. I just want to say that I had a phenomenal time being a guest speaker at the Wrapped in Wellness 3.0 The Overflow Conference. My sorority sister Lakisha did an amazing job at putting together an experience for her guests. And I want to encourage each and every one of you, if you missed the 3.0, do not miss the Wrapped in Wellness 4.0 because it was definitely an experience to pour back into your wells, because day to day we go around and we are walking around with these empty wells. So we need an opportunity to get ourselves filled, and the Wrapped in Wellness Conference did that and more.
So there you have that, and that was from Shaniqua Johnson, who is one of our speaker. She was also the 2022 Holistic Wellness Champion or recipient. So there's 3 awards that are given out during the year for Wrapped in Wellness, and it celebrates the previous year basically. And so for 2022, we had Shaniqua Johnson, our Holistic Wellness Champion, as I just mentioned. We have Miss Leslie Adley, who is our Heart for Health awardee. And then we had a very, very special awardee recipient for our Legacy Builder Award. That went to Miss Lois Tilly Carey, who unfortunately passed in November 2022. And so we awarded her the Legacy Builder Awardee in memory of the legacy of love that she has shown to many of us. She was a very special woman. She was the grandmother to all, and she was at the very first Wrapped in Wellness back in 2019. She was the elder in the room. So this year, though we could not honor her in person, her family came out and received the award in her honor. And so that was just a great moment, another just great moment during the weekend. So you've seen our review from Miss Shaniqua Johnson with the little commercial I gave you there. So go ahead and be prepared to join us next year as we bring back Miss Nicole.
Hey,
Welcome back.
you know,
Welcome back.
oh my gosh. Remember we just talked about my phone, but I didn't have my what's the thing? Surge protector thing. I didn't have it
It
on.
wasn't on. I
Yes.
have done that too many times. You think
Let
you're
me tell you.
charging away and you're like, oh,
Let me tell you.
the source is not on. How about that?
But you know what? It's so funny because I was like, I know I have grown because if this was me a couple years ago, I would have panicked. I would have
Mhm.
panicked.
Right.
And I would have been embarrassed and I would have panicked. But I was like, I sat here like this. I just started laughing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But things happen.
Things happen. That's right. And this technology, we love it, but hey, we
Yeah.
can't do much without it.
Right. I was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna kill me.
Or no, I was like, and as we cut to commercial break, we ready, honey. We ready. Well, yeah, we did our little commercial break with our Shaniqua Johnson video. Cut right in and share with them the award recipients from this year's Wrapped in Wellness. And then we brought you right
Thank
on back
you.
in, right on
Look at
time.
you.
It's all good.
All right. I don't
All
even remember
good.
what I was talking about, but yeah, I guess it was just the fact that him and I were definitely we're communicators, so it was easy
Mhm.
for us to kind of talk through different things that were really bothering us and different things like that. So um, that was really good for me, and I'm sure for him as well, just to be able to talk, to always be in contact with one another, to be able to just really ask those questions. He would say, "How are you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm fine." He'd be like, "No, how are you doing?" So he
Mhm.
was just really a great sounding board.
Mhm.
as well as me being a great caregiver to him. Because I mean, like that's what he said. I was like, if you tell me thank you one more time, I'm going to kick your ass. Like, stop saying thank you. This is what I'm here for. And if it was on the shoe was on the other foot, I know damn well he will be right there for me. So
Right.
it's a reciprocated love. And, you know, he was there for me mentally. And like people don't realize. And this is where I get into the part who takes care of the caregiver, because I know
Mhm.
a lot of people, you know, they say, you know, the caregiver takes care of the caregiver, and you know you got to make sure that you are, you know, giving yourself that self-love, that time, that time management, you know, organizational skills, because it does kind of, you know, you have to be able to go to doctor's appointments, figure out,
Mhm.
you know, how to put pills together, and you know different things. I mean, there's so many things that you can do physically, but nobody talks about the you, and you can do things for the mental as well, you know,
Right.
meditation and
Mhm.
journaling and, you know, taking videos of yourself. So you got those two pieces, you know, down, but really who takes care of you spiritually, and that's
Mhm.
where I am with the who takes care of the caregiver. I saw things differently.
Mhm.
I wanted to dive into this particular question, because every time I looked it up I would see those different things, like making sure you take care of yourself physically and, you know, da 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 da. But I was like, okay, but where is all of this coming from? And when I like I said, I'm an avid meditator. So my biggest thing for me when he was going through what he was going through and me going through my caregiving journey, meditation was my saving grace.
Mm.
That is what really, really got me through. And you know, I have friends that were really, really good with talking to me. You know, but sometimes you want to be by yourself.
Right.
You want that solitude. And every time I got that solitude, it made me feel, I came out of that meditation feeling so healed in some ways.
Mm.
So I remember when I had this one meditation, and it was like, I asked the question, and I was like, I'm thinking, of course, you know, it's your basically your subconscious mind, your conscious mind that you're kind of going back and forth in your super conscious mind. But you know, I asked from the conscious mind, like who takes care of the caregiver, and it just came so quickly.
Mm.
And what I found out was that the person that takes care of the caregiver is actually the person, the loved one going through the illness, or the loved one going through what they're going through, who you're taking care of. And the way that this is given is by spiritual growth. Like you're learning more empathy, you're learning how to be more caring, you're learning how to be more loving, you're learning how to listen, being that listening ear. And though you may have had those things before, there's so many spiritual lessons behind that journey that
Mm.
we don't really look into. Like, I mean, I've learned so much about myself. Like self-awareness was big. Like I really think that what my husband went through and what he the cancer journey really was my spiritual activation. Like if it wasn't for him going through what he was going through, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I wouldn't have even tried to do a sound bowl. I wouldn't have
Right.
tried to, you know what I'm saying? And it's
That's powerful.
because
That's powerful.
we really don't think about it in that context. We just kind of think about like how we can release the stress by going out here axe throwing, and those
Mhm.
things are good to do. Absolutely, they're good. They relieve your stress. But where does this come from spiritually? And
Mhm.
my biggest thing was really finding that out on a deeper, like we always know things on surface level,
Mhm.
but this to me helped me see the caregiving journey in full blown out full color, you know, because now I know what I can do what I can do spiritually, what I can do mentally, and what I can do physically, you know, because you have to tap into all three of those elements, not just one or two.
Right.
And to actually understand spiritually that the person that's going through it is the one that's actually teaching, and it's actually a co-creative experience. Like so many people take it personally, they get like it's a burden, and not really realizing that this person don't want to go through this.
Right.
It's not something that they
They didn't
want
choose
to
it.
do. Exactly. That's another subject, but
Mhm.
because I do I do also believe in soul blueprint. Like when you,
Mhm,
before you come into this earthly realm, you know, you already have your whole purpose and the things that you're supposed to
mhm,
come here to learn from. So technically, I do feel like we pick it,
mhm,
just for the growth, the spiritual growth behind it, the evolution, because it's like I created like this formula where, you know, it's adversities, like the adversities they would go through, plus the knowledge that we learn from that adversity.
mhm,
So with me, it was caregiving. Okay, what did I learn from caregiving? I learned about, you know, different things that doctors tell you, like different, there are different chemo treatments out there, there are
mhm.
different options out there. I've learned so much. I've learned,
Right.
I've met different people that are actually awesome, that you could talk to. I mean, it was so much that I actually learned from the journey of knowledge. So I always say adversity. The adversity is the caregiving journey.
Mhm,
The knowledge, it was adversity plus knowledge plus power equals healing times two, which healing for myself. And then what I'm doing now is healing the collective.
mhm.
Because you know you're getting the adversity, you're getting the knowledge, now you're getting
Right.
the power because now you're starting to understand it, and now you're starting to see it for what it's worth. For me, I saw it for what it was worth. It wasn't something negative. It was, I always say my husband's cancer was a gift because it brought so much growth out of
Mm,
this whole thing. And if people can just take back the emotions and really look at their journey for what it is and see what you can actually learn from the journey. We're all going through things. We're all going through different adversities. You know, it could be financial, it could be illness, it could be loss of a loved one. I, even with the loss of a loved one, like that was a big thing for me as well, because of course, like I said, you hear cancer, the first thing I thought about was dying.
mhm,
And for me, I already have, um, I have a trauma with abandonment of death. I already knew that, you know, that was one of my meditations as well, where it's like it's showing me different things that I need to learn from, forgive from, grow from. That was one of them. And
mm.
so I had to understand that all of us are going to perish, all of us. Nobody is going to be here forever. And I know that's hard for people to understand, but
But
what
it's the honest truth.
it is the truth. And we are spirit first before we're actually physical. So, and I don't know, I just feel like the veil is so thin right now that my meditations, I can feel my grandmother. I,
Mhm,
and my grandmother was the one that raised me. So this is my third time going through caregiving. Like it was with my grandmother, our daughter. She's been going through things since she was in ninth grade. So she's still
mhm.
going through her things. And plus my husband, he's still going through, you know, the remnants of
Of
trauma.
it, right.
So
So having been a caregiver 3 times over, um, you wrote a little book
I did.
there, and not to call it little, but I just love the title. And so I want us, before our time runs out, I want you to share about that book and how it ties into this,
I have a
and
copy.
how they can I love the title, and how they can get your book.
Yeah. It's called, can I say the word? You know,
I
some,
don't Facebook might ban us, so you probably
oh, I'll
can't.
say, okay. Well, I'll say
You
it's
could say
based,
cuff it because that's
yeah,
what everybody else saying
yeah.
instead.
Well, I called it F caregiving because, but it also has a subtitle, which is a practical approach to finding the joy in your journey.
Mhm.
And as you can see, it has all of these different, you know, emotions that we go
Right.
through as a caregiver. Nobody's going to tell me that they didn't feel all of these different things.
Mhm.
And I know I felt all of these different things like hope, hopelessness, stress, anxiety, you know, depression, resentment. I mean, so I wrote the book because number one, I wanted other caregivers to know that their feelings are valid.
Mhm.
Like everybody looks at caregiving as this noble, beautiful thing that you're doing for people, but not realizing on the inside, we're like, this shit is hard. Like it's
Right.
not an easy task because you're trying to take care of that person, and not just on a physical level, but it's on a mental level, because now you got to make sure you're keeping them, you know, elevated. You know, basically you're giving them some of your light to kind of keep
Right.
them lit. And then it's also spiritual, because now you're angry. I was angry at God,
Mhm.
angry at God. I was pissed. I'm like, me and my husband are on such a great, like we were on a great level, and then boom. But then I had to understand that this is not really about the physical. It's really
Mhm.
about the spiritual levels of different things. So I wrote the book just to kind of let other caregivers know that though we go through these things, your feelings are valid. You know, everybody's always in that mode of, oh, you're doing such a noble act. Oh, you're doing this. And though it is a noble act, it is a very hard, and especially if you don't, if you have a loved one that you are learning from the journey as far as them not being very nice to you, that's even harder, you
Mhm.
know, to go through. But and then if you don't have, like, if you have other siblings, like some people might have siblings, if you have other siblings that, you know, kind of go with their own day or their own lives, but nobody's really helping you take care of mom or dad or whomever, like all of that stuff gets bottled up, and it
Right.
is, and you only thing you're doing is suppressing it. You're not really taking that time out to really let it go. So this was basically to show other caregivers how to let those things go, how to move through them. And though I, you know, at that moment in time when I wrote this book, I had no idea about the spiritual aspects of it. It was more about how to physically move through it and how to mentally move through it. But it does tie into some of that spiritualness. But
Mhm.
to kind of know it on a different level now than I did before, it's definitely, it's a release, it's a healing, for other people to know, to see that there is a grand uh, vision for it, instead of it just being about you physically and emotionally helping somebody out. You're actually learning from the journey as well. It's a co-creative experience. It's just
Mhm.
not you. It's nothing personal. It's a co-creative experience that you and your loved one are growing. It's about unconditional love and evolution. That's
Mm.
what this whole world is about: unconditional love and evolution. And though you're still going to feel these feelings, you still going to
Right.
feel feelings, and you still need to take that physical time, and, you know, that mental time and different things like that. But just to know it on a different level, like I said, it went from a surface level understanding to a full color understanding for me. And that was my whole point of actually writing the book. But I'm also starting to do more speaking engagements about it, just to give caregivers that, oh, like I can breathe,
Right.
or that I see you. I know
Mhm.
what you're going through. I know what it feels like to, you know, be everything for everybody else, and nothing for yourself. So that was my whole purpose of this book.
Can
And
you share with us, like, maybe a tip or two from your book?
oh, definitely. I mean,
Yes.
let me see.
We wanna help the people out, leave them with something.
um, well, like for, let's see, trying to think of a good one. Because I mean, this is when I kind of found, I like this picture. Oh, you can't see it, but it's basically a picture of me laying down, where I kind of like felt
Mm.
I was in a joyful, centered, um,
Right.
understanding mode of, you know, what was happening around us. I'm trying to figure out something for like chapter. Let's see, chapter 3. It was about recognizing your feelings are valid, and you know
Mm.
that to me was a big thing, because, you know, I just want caregivers to know that your feelings are valid. Like, you know, it's okay to feel these things.
Right.
The thing is to kind of, you know, feel them, embrace them, and release them. That
And
was,
release 'em.
yeah.
Yeah, because what we tend to just sometimes sit and start marinating in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't wanna leave it.
Yes.
Allow it to take over our entire life,
Yes.
and feel like we can't get up from the chair.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to, like you said, recognize it,
Yeah.
acknowledge it, and then figure out, okay, so how am I gonna move on from
Like this
here?
this was a big day for me. This is when we found out about my husband's cancer, and I just took
Mm,
this was a video that I took of myself just talking myself through what had just happened, and
right.
just releasing all of that into the video, instead of putting my feelings on somebody else, because people take in your feelings, and
Mhm.
they take in your feelings when they have their other feelings at the end. My friends were great at that, talking and everything, but sometimes it was great to just get out any and everything that
Right.
without judgment. you know I go back and look at those videos all the time, and I'm like, dang, look where I was and look where
Right.
you know
And I mean, the forethought of you to even to begin to record this and document this part of your life,
yeah.
that's pretty amazing in itself. So you have a point of reference
Yeah. And
to look back on.
also just the fact that I was able to be vulnerable, like, to
Mhm.
myself.
Yes.
um Knowing that some people might see it, because I think I want to start putting it out there. I've actually
Mhm.
put some of the videos out there just to kind of, again, give that caregiver, the future caregiver, the present
Right.
caregiver, or even the past caregiver, just give them those tips to, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay
Mhm.
to feel your feelings. That's my biggest thing, is the emotions that come from it. You can go out here and you can, do all of these physical things for yourself, but emotionally you have to release and try to find ways of healing. And for me, that was meditation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. So show the cover of the book again, and then how they can go to your website and order
Yeah.
the book?
It's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon as
Mhm.
well, but it is definitely on my website. It's I am NicoleYHawkins.com. That is where I do it has everything on there. My book, my clothing line that I just kind of
I
created.
see you sporting them I was like, "Okay. I
Because
need me a weirdo hoodie."
see, and people used to call me that, like, because,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, why get mad? Why not embrace it?
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. I embrace those different things. When
Right.
people see me activate my spiritual essence, they don't know how to take that. Like, they're like,
Mhm.
ooh, like she's weird, but
Right.
I feel like I'm tapped into me. And
Yes.
that's the best thing for us to be, is to be tapped into us. Because when you're tapped into yourself, you don't see nobody else. You're
Right.
able to freely be who you are, weird, crazy, and all. But people don't want that. They go by society standards, and when
Mhm.
you go outside of that box, it can get crazy. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I have a
Well,
lot of things on there, but yeah.
so you see her website below again is I am Nicole, and that's Nicole without the H, COLEY Hawkins.com. I
Yeah.
have to do that because I mean that is Lakisha without the E.
Right.
So visit her website, shop her shop. There's nice, bold, vibrant hoodies and other products on there. And of course, as she has mentioned right at the very beginning, she also does sound bath meditation, sound healing. So you can schedule your own private
Yeah.
session with
Yeah.
Nicole, whether it's private sessions or group
Group
sessions. She
sessions.
does retreats.
Yep.
Call her, go to her website, get her booked up this year. 2023 is the year of I'm booked and I'm booked again.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're
Speaking,
claiming it and we manifesting it.
I will definitely
Yes.
speak on caregiving if anybody's looking for a speaker to
Mhm.
speak. That's my um, fear. My fear has always been public speaking. So I said,
Mhm.
this year I'm going to overcome that, and you've helped me overcome that.
Yes.
So
We're gonna have her, so she's gonna be either at our virtual one or our next one. We was trying to get it
Yeah.
up there this year, but she got she stayed a little hidden, but boy, she did what she was purposed to do
Yeah.
at
Ab-
this particular time. And
ab-
so, and that's what people have to recognize too, that like it's not that sometimes that fear keeps you out of it, but it allowed you to operate in what was needed
Absolutely.
specifically at that time. And so again, we thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you
you.
for teaming up with us, and we look forward to it. You guys go ahead and get the book, F Caregiving, so that we can stay compliant with Facebook. But it's a great book on letting you know, like she said, as a caregiver, you are not going through this alone.
Yeah.
So there's resources out there. So again, thank you, Miss Nicole, for
Thank
joining
you.
us for this episode of Wrapped in Wellness Convos, where we talk everything wellness from the love well to the eat well to the move well. So stay tuned. This Wednesday on February 1st, we're going to be doing our second round of wrapping up Wrapped in Wellness. So we'll bring on some of our speakers and then just have kind of a free conversation about what it takes to be wrapped in wellness.
Mhm.
Thanks for tuning in. We wish you a very good evening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.